Well, here's the next project in the shop. Took a trip to Harbor Freight, picked up the 40-pound capacity Sandblast cabinet, and I'm going to go ahead and get this thing put together. I know there's a lot of modifications and stuff that guys are making, but I'm going to try this thing with no modifications and see how it goes, or at least that's my plan. The compressor that I'll be running it off of is this little Campbell-Hausfeld unit that I've had for a number of years, and I don't see a lot of guys talking about the CFM when they're complaining about air compressors and stuff, or you know, the sandblasters and stuff. But see that SCFM rating there? That's how much volume of air that this compressor is actually compressing. So that's cubic feet per minute. So it's only compressing 5.5 cubic feet per minute at 90 psi, and I think the requirement on this cabinet is something like 9 CFM. I don't know if it shows it on the sticker there or not. Yeah, 9.5 CFM at 90 psi. So I know right off the bat that I have an underpowered air compressor for this, so that's going to cause me problems. I expect to run it at a lower PSI than 90. So again, we'll refer over here to the sticker on the side of our air compressor. If we run it at 40 PSI, we'll have another extra foot of compressed air per minute. So 6.5 SCFM at 40 PSI. I mean, that's a little more air. It's a little less velocity on the sand. So I'm still not going to be super happy with the results, I think. I think I'm going to have to upgrade my air compressor. I think I'm going to have to go out and buy a bigger one. But we're going to try this. I want a blaster. I've wanted a cabinet for a number of years. So I've got the cabinet, and whatever I got to do to make the cabinet work is what we're going to do. For now, I'm going to get this thing put together. We're going to hook it up to that air compressor, and we're going to see how it does. here's the sort of finished, assembled. I've used it for about an hour. This is going to be my take on it, and then we're gonna wind this up. So out of the box, this thing seems like it's sufficient with my little compressor for small parts, small projects would probably be okay. Short duration runs would be probably okay. I wanted to test it out with that compressor. Again, that compressor produces only about 5 feet of air a minute, where this cabinet, the requirement on the cabinet is like 9 feet. So I'm anemic with my amount of air that I'm giving this cabinet. It would probably perform so much better given a larger volume of air. But for the project that the project that I bought it for was these truck rims. Well, I went ahead and cleaned this truck rim up, at least parts of it. I really focused on parts of it, and I don't like the finish that I'm getting from the sandblasting. So it's not going to work for these truck rims, and because it's not going to work for these truck rims, I'm not in a hurry to run out and spend another $1,000 on a compressor to run it. So I'm going to run it in the future using my little compressor, and I think I'll be okay with it. So my take on this thing, out of the box, it's about 2 inches too short. I stand about 5'10", 5'10 and a half, something like that. When I put it together, it does not have wheels on it. Of course, it's 2 inches shorter, and I was hunched over it seemed like I was hunched over to get my arms in there. I was going to be hunched over to look in the window. So I wanted to put casters on it anyhow. So when I cut the legs off to fit the casters, I added enough to raise the legs. You know, the thing actually stands 2 inches taller than it would out of the box. Another thing, sort of a modification that I made, and I didn't make very many, was the fitting that this hose comes out of the base of the gun, the main air hose. As soon as I put air on this thing, as soon as I put pressure to it, it blew that line off immediately. And I checked the fitting that came with it. It's a terrible little fitting to try to capture a hose. I mean, it's got like a barb. It's just anemic for what it's meant to do. So I swapped that out with a standard 3/8 barb, and you know, that 3/8 barb fitting threaded into the adapter here that comes with the box, and it's working just fine. The media that I'm using is the fine media from Tractor Supply. I've heard guys say that if you try to use the coarse, you'll have a much worse experience. So that's the stuff that I got from Tractor Supply. It's about half price at Tractor Supply compared to Harbor Freight. And to call this fine is probably, it's not coarse, but I mean, it ain't fine. This is not powder. This is, I'm going to guess, I used to work at a sand plant. I'm going to guess it's not 30 grit. It might be, I don't know, 70, something like that. That'd be my guess. It's been a few years. The light, a lot of guys, you know, have problems with the light. I think the light is sufficient, you know, to do what, it's a sandblast cabinet. The window, I know that's another thing. A lot of guys just put the glass in and they don't put any of the other covers on. This comes with sort of tearaways. That's this white strip. That's a tearaway on the inside. Then the glass, and then a plexiglass on top. So this is a sandwich of materials right now. It's sufficient. I mean, it's not great. You can see sort of what's going on in there. But I've used big industrial cabinet sandblasters before, and hell, you can never see because they never change the lens. They never, you know, I've never been able to see when I use a blast cabinet. So this, to me, is not bad. I did flip this upside down so the lip is up just so I can put crap on here and not roll off. I think this is meant to support that funnel a little bit, but I didn't like the idea that metal might chafe against each other. So that's why I did that. Other than that, those are the only mods I made. That barb fitting and you know, raising it up, putting it on casters. It's sufficient for small projects and stuff. If you were going to ask this thing to do much more work, I think it's capable of it, but you're going to have to feed it a lot more air. And it's not that expensive to do that. Like I said, Home Depot has got a Craftsman air compressor right now that will feed this all the air it wants for 800 bucks. It's a 240 volt, so you might have to run a dedicated line or something like that if you didn't have a 240 plug. But then you'd be upgrading your shop with a much nicer air compressor. You could run a lot more air tools. So that's probably something that I'll do one day, but I'm not going to do it right now. But yeah, so if you guys are looking for, looking at this cabinet, it's not as bad as a lot of guys say. You can run it with a smaller air compressor, but, you're limiting it right off the bat. Now, if you've got a big compressor and you've got a dryer, this thing will probably do super great for you. I hope I helped you with this one, guys. If you want to see more videos with this compressor, this truck, boats, walleye season's coming up, I don't know. I get into all kinds of stuff. Click the subscribe button. Till the next time, keep on tinkering.